I'm Natalie. I'm from Catch the Fire, Manchester. During my devotional times in the lockdown, I've been doing a sort of Bible study on what happens to people when they've been in an isolated place with God, or they have the type of job that's an isolated job, and what happens after that. What's the first thing they do? What's the first thing they say? Because there's been a lot of talk about, what will it look like when we come out of lockdown? How will we behave? Will things be different? And it seems to me in the Bible there are several examples of people taking themselves to an isolated place and coming out of that. It seems to me there's a direct relationship between being in an isolated place with God, in the presence of God, coming out of that with this renewed confidence and purpose. And anyway, I'll explain a little bit more. One well-known story which you'll know is David and Goliath. Now, David had the type of job which was an isolated job. So he was a shepherd, feeding the sheep on the mountainside. He spent a lot of time in God's presence, getting to know who God was, getting to know who he was in God. And he came out of that situation, out of that environment, atmosphere, into his father asked him to go and take more or less a packed lunch to his brothers who were on the front line fighting the Philistines. David came into that situation with still in the presence, still with the same assurance of who God was and who he was. He came into that and he said, 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 16, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Now, if you're looking at that and asking yourself, was David confident? That's a very confident sentence, a very confident thing to say. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine who dares defy? You don't say that in an unconfident way. And then he went on to tell Saul, King Saul, at the time that he would fight the Philistine. He says, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." And he did. He went to fight him, and he went to fight him as himself. He went with his shepherd boy clothes, his shepherd boy bag with some stones in and a slingshot, and he killed the Philistine, the giant Goliath, with one shot. And this giant had kept the whole of the Israelite army in fear for 40 days. And then David comes out of isolation into this situation, and boom, the giant's dead. So that was one example. And then I read about Jesus when Jesus walked on water. Now, he'd taken himself again. He said he took himself to a solitary place or an isolated place to spend time with his Father. And then he was going to meet the disciples on the other side of the lake. Now, in some versions it says that Jesus started walking on the water, and he wasn't even going to go to the boat, he was going to walk past. And I like to, when I read the Bible, picture things in my mind. Now, to me, this seems almost like that Jesus was so full from being with the Father and knowing who he was again and having a new sense of purpose, that he, with that confidence, with that boldness, he strutted across the lake, almost past the boat with the disciples in. And again, it just looked like he was full of God, like oozing God, because the disciples, when they looked at him, and Jesus hadn't really said much to them at this point, but they said, as they saw him, and they'd been with him a long time before this, they said, "Truly you are the Son of God." So something about Jesus at that point, something that was oozing out of him as he's strutting across the lake, caused them to say, "Truly you are the Son of God." Now again, I believe that this is a supernatural confidence that comes out of being in the presence of God. There are many more examples in the Bible, but I think what we can take from this, that if we use this time during isolation to be with the Father, to have him remind us who he is, to have him speak over us of who we are in him, and renew our purpose in him. Now, if someone said to me, if you go in that room over there, when you come out, you'll have a new confidence in yourself, you'll have a renewed sense of purpose, you will have a revelation of God, and you will shine forth Jesus, who was the most perfect man who ever walked the earth. Jesus would actually shine out of you, and you'll affect those around you if you go into that room on your own, and when you come out that will happen. Now, I would want to go into that room, I would want that, and essentially that's what can happen. You take yourself into the presence of the God, go before him, listen to him, read the word, listen to what he says, let him speak over you. We will come out of this lockdown situation with that renewed sense of confidence and purpose. And even almost without speaking, people will see the change in you and know that it's because of Jesus, that truly he is the Son of God. The disciples, it burst out of them, the idea of he was walking on the water, and something about that, not just the miracle, they'd seen miracles before, but something about him caused them to say that. And I believe, I want to encourage us all, that God wants to realign us with him in this time. I often see it as a picture of a huge electric cable, which is the source of the power and the strength and the light and the energy. And we are another cable here, and sometimes the cable touches and sparks. But when it's connected, the power flows through and then out of us, and then imagine like electric car that's plugged into the side of a house overnight. If that's the source of the energy, it needs that to be able to do its purpose the next day. And in the same way, we need to be realigned with God, to be connected with him in order to do the purpose that he has laid out for us. And that purpose is to do what he's designed us to do, to be ourselves, but ourselves connected with him, because that is the best version of you. So I just want to encourage you all to spend time in his presence, in his word, and allow him to make you the best version of you. So when we come out of this, we're coming out in his power, in his strength, and he'd shine forth from all of us.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
At Catch the Fire Manchester, our hope whilst you're watching this content is that you encounter the living God and that he transforms your life.
If you want to access more content from Catch the Fire Church in Manchester, why not like and subscribe? You can also join us every Sunday morning as we gather to worship and glorify God together. The link for that will be in the bio. You can jump on our website at ctfmanchester.com for any more details. We'll see you guys really soon.